Hello there. I'm outside in my own backyard, but I'm here today to talk a little bit about cool weather kayaking. I don't really mean cold water or cold weather kayaking. Cool weather kayaking is shoulder season. It's when the air gets colder but the water doesn't freeze up, and when conditions are reasonable to paddle but not dangerous. That mostly occurs in fall, mid-fall, and sometimes a little later into fall, and early in spring also. So cool weather kayaking is the topic for today. Well, I'm out here today on Edith Lake. Fairly calm morning, quite cool. So I've used my cool weather setup. This is my spray skirt here. It's only a half spray skirt. Finishes off back here. But it acts also as a deck bag, which is kind of nice. Got my gloves on, got my boots on, and I've got a paddling jacket. This one is sleeveless, but it works quite well. It blocks the wind, and I feel nice and warm today. It gets colder. I'll put a long sleeve on and a toque probably, but so far so good. Heading off now for the rest. So a little more on cool weather kayaking. We're talking here about colder air. When I paddle these lakes, it was just above zero. Air is cold, but the water still stays moderate. It's quite a bit of different scenario if you're paddling very cold water. There's all sorts of safety issues. A huge factor is the amount of wind. The gauge that I use is I'm okay with 5 and 10 kilometers an hour. At 15 kilometers an hour, it really depends on how cold it is and how open the lake is. I don't go to big open lakes for sure. So I just check the wind forecast the night before and then double check in the morning and make a decision whether I'm going to be paddling that day or hiking instead. We want decent launch spots in cool weather. We don't want to be wading through mucky stuff. So I do use a neoprene boot. It comes fair ways up so I can wade out into the water. But I prefer a gravelly surface rather than a muddy surface. So choose a lake with a good launch spot. Of course, I use all my safety equipment. I wear a PFD. I have a paddle float, so if I had to do a wet rescue, then I know how to do it. I've practiced it. And I carry the other safety gear too, a whistle and rope and so on. I always tell someone where I am when I'm out there, and I have a plan for self-rescue. The saying is we're all in between swims. Well, that's certainly the case if you're paddling in the ocean or paddling on a river with rapids, but on these lakes, if you stay close to the shoreline, you have a pretty good sense of safety. In fact, the colder it gets, the more I stay close to the shoreline. My general rescue plan is if I did fall over into the water, I can do a self-rescue if the water is not too cold. But if it is cold, I'm going to be hauling that boat over to the shoreline as quickly as I can. I wear some pretty good gloves. They're not fingerless gloves, and they are designed for colder water. And the boots are neoprene. They're fairly high. They go up, not as far as my knee, but pretty close. I do have a paddling jacket that protects me from the wind. I also have a dry suit. I don't put the dry suit on though until the water is very cold. And I'll wear a hat, but I'll wear a toque if it gets colder. I have a full spray skirt, but I prefer a half spray skirt. It's just a little easier to maneuver underneath. It does protect my legs and keep my feet warm. One of the biggest risks is dripping water off your paddle all over your legs. That can show you pretty fast. I go to smaller lakes or slower moving rivers in winter. I paddle the shoreline, and I opt for loops around a lake as opposed to going on a longer route through an open lake. If it gets to cold water and cold conditions, I do have a dry top and I do have a dry suit. So first paddles in the spring, which is usually March, I wear a full dry suit so that if I did tip over, cold shock is less of an issue because I have a full dry suit. They're very expensive though, so it's easier just to wait until the water warms up and the air warms up. We should ask ourselves always, when is it too cold to paddle? I probably go out longer than most people do, stay out longer. I try to get into November if I can, but I really wait for a good day if I can. So I do less paddling in November. I do go out in March, but I watch the wind forecast, and the lakes they don't get ice free until later, in fact. So I end up paddling on the river. River is not as safe as a small lake, but the South Thompson River here in Kamloops is it's reasonably small, slow moving. I can stay close to shoreline without any hazards, and I can go up river and back for about an hour and a half if I feel good that day. And that's usually start of the season and end of the season strategy. Anyway, you can paddle in cool conditions. It can be great. One of the best things is there's no one around. You get the lake to yourself or the river to yourself. You get fall colors to enjoy. There may be a few ducks around still, lots of birds still, and it can be a very peaceful, enjoyable experience as well as good exercise. So get out there and try it yourself.